Was Fred Rogers really the gentle soul everyone remembers? Or is there a side of him the cameras never captured? We all know that soft-spoken voice that made generations feel seen, heard, and safe. But behind the cardigan and calm demeanor, Fred Rogers had layers few ever glimpsed. Before he passed, his widow shared a truth that was quiet, personal, and profound, and it might just change the way you think about America's favorite neighbor forever. Think about it. The most powerful children's show in TV history didn't rely on flashy graphics or loud characters. It didn't need them. All it needed was one man speaking directly to your soul. And that's exactly what Fred did. When Mr. Rogers' Neighborhood first aired in 1968, it didn't grab your attention with noise. Fred walked in, hung up his coat, slipped on that iconic cardigan, swapped his shoes for sneakers, and softly sang, "Won't you be my neighbor?" It wasn't a show. It was a visit, a safe space, a pause in a world that often felt overwhelming. While other shows taught counting or letters, Fred taught something harder, how to feel. He gave kids the language to name fear, sadness, anger, and joy. Topics like divorce, death, race, and disability were handled with honesty, never talking down to children. And in the neighborhood of make-believe, puppets mirrored real-life struggles, King Friday, Daniel Tiger, Lady Elaine, all voiced by Fred himself, carrying parts of his personality into every story. Over 31 seasons, nearly 900 episodes aired. That kind of consistency wasn't about fame, it was about heart. Fred understood that children didn't need more noise. They needed stillness, honesty, and someone who treated their feelings with respect. Each episode became a tiny sanctuary, just Fred, just talking, just you. For kids in chaotic homes, those 30 minutes were often the safest part of the day, and while the show's tone was gentle, the guest list could make some noise. Yo-Yo Ma taught kids that music can speak what words cannot. Julia Child brought warmth from her kitchen. LeVar Burton, David Copperfield, Tony Bennett, even Coco the gorilla all met Fred's gaze with the same dignity he extended to every child. Everyone mattered. That was the magic. Fred's work earned him Emmys, the Sin Golden Eagle, a Lifetime Achievement Award, but his real reward was watching children feel loved and understood. Even after the show ended in 2001, Fred's voice lives on. Thanks to streaming platforms and Daniel Tiger's Neighborhood, new generations continue to discover the gentle wisdom he shared so freely. He once said, "The greatest gift you ever give is your honest self." For over 3 decades, that's exactly what he did. To truly understand Fred, though, you need to meet the woman who stood quietly beside him, keeping pace with his heart. Joanne Rogers wasn't just Mrs. Fred Rogers. She was a musician, a thinker, and someone whose life was remarkable long before she met Fred. Born in 1928 in Jacksonville, Florida, Joanne grew up in a home that valued curiosity. Conversation and music? A piano prodigy by grade school, she played not to impress, but because it made her feel alive. Classical, jazz, folk, she explored it all, eventually studying music at Rollins College and Carnegie Tech, refining her craft, her voice, and her vision. Joanne didn't chase fame. She sought connection, deep friendships, honest conversations. And when she met Fred at Rollins College, it wasn't his charm that caught her. It was the way he truly listened. They shared practice rooms, recitals, and quiet conversations, building a bond that was rooted in shared rhythm, intellect, and emotional safety. It wasn't a love story of grand gestures. It was a love story that endured, quietly, beautifully, over decades. After college, distance tested them. Fred moved to New York. Joanne stayed in Florida. No texts, no calls, just letters filled with care, longing, and trust. Then came the letter with the question that would shape their lives. Joanne's eyes were nearly lost, rushing from a phone booth, but she held on to it and with it, a life together. Married in 1952, their life was far from perfect, but it was alive. Music remained their shared language. Laughter, inside jokes, and tender moments filled the spaces between. Joanne became his anchor, protecting his creative space, challenging him when needed, and understanding his complexities in a way no one else could. Fred wasn't simple. He carried the weight of others' pain and a desire to do enough, to be enough. Joanne held all of that with love. giving him permission to be tender, flawed, and deeply human. Even as Fred became a beloved public figure, their marriage stayed grounded. They didn't live for applause or cameras. They lived for mornings filled with music, for laughter that bubbled up during the quiet, ordinary moments, and for a companionship built on knowing each other completely and still choosing each other every day. It wasn't a fairy tale. That's what made it real. And real is what makes it beautiful. Behind the legend, there was a love story built on effort, on respect, and on an unshakable bond. While the world saw Mr. Rogers in his cardigan, Joanne knew the man behind the camera. She knew his worries, his fears, his discipline. She kept those parts of him sacred. And maybe that's the true magic. Not perfection, but a love and life chosen over and over for more than 5 decades. When the cameras were off, a different Fred quietly emerged. The public saw calm. Joanne saw the depth, the man carrying weight, the man wrestling with doubt, the man working tirelessly to live up to the example he wanted to set. When you think of Fred Rogers, you probably picture that slow, steady voice tying his shoes, speaking directly to you as if you were the only person in the world. And yes, that was him. Fred believed in kindness, and he lived it every day even when no one was watching. Friends and coworkers will tell you the same. But here's what makes his story more human, more powerful. He wasn't perfect. Not a saint. He was kind, yes, but it took effort. Joanne herself said he wasn't flawless. He got tired. He doubted himself. He felt the weight of the world's expectations, especially the millions of kids who looked up to him. And he worked at being gentle, thoughtful, and present. That choice of discipline is what made him extraordinary. Fred's routines were deliberate. Swimming every morning, weighing himself daily to stay at 143 pounds, 1 letter for I, 4 for love, 3 for you. Small rituals, big messages, but living up to that ideal came with pressure. The world expected him to always be soft, patient, and perfect. Joanne witnessed the toll that expectation took: the tired days, the self-doubt, the moments when even he faltered. Their marriage had its own rhythms, its own challenges. Fred was gentle, and sometimes Joanne had to step in when disciplining their sons. Their life together was messy, funny, real. She was the anchor while he carried the emotional weight of a generation. It's a lesson in humanity. We love to put heroes on pedestals, expecting them never to stumble. But Fred lived in reality. He needed rest, support, and love just like the rest of us. And in that choice to continue choosing patience and kindness, to believe in good even when frustrated, he created a legacy that's endured for decades. But there's a layer most people never saw. Joanne Rogers spoke of it candidly, the awful truth. Don't let that phrase mislead you. It isn't a scandal. It isn't a secret. It's fragile, personal, and profoundly human. Fred's final days were marked by a battle with stomach cancer. Not just physical, but emotional and spiritual. Away from cameras, away from the public gaze, the strength everyone admired met its most private challenge. Joanne watched him face pain, uncertainty, and fear with courage. And she saw the moments of quiet loneliness, the private doubts that never made it to the screen. Fred's illness came as a surprise. At first, he brushed off discomfort, managing it quietly on his own. But when the pain worsened, when treatment became unavoidable, the reality hit hard. The cancer had spread, and the prognosis was grim. In those long days of treatment, with the physical toll mounting and time slipping away, Fred's usual certainty gave way to vulnerability. And yet, even in that vulnerability, he showed the humanity behind the legend, the same humanity Joanne had loved and held for decades. Even as his health declined, Fred kept moving forward, determined to stay connected to the things and people he loved. In January 2003, just weeks before he passed, he appeared as the Grand Marshal of the Rose Parade in Pasadena, a brief, bright moment that showed how deeply he cared about his commitments, even in the toughest times. After surgery to remove part of his stomach, Fred spent some time in the hospital before coming home. Joanne remembers how playing the piano brought him small moments of peace and comfort, even when his body felt weak. And then, quietly, on February 27, 2003, he passed away at home, surrounded by family, just a day after his grandson's birthday. For years, Joanne stayed silent about these intimate details. Partly, it was out of respect for Fred's privacy, partly because the world had seen him as this untouchable figure. But eventually she realized that hiding this side of Fred wasn't fair to his story, or to the people who loved him. By sharing it, she could honor him in a way that felt real, not just iconic. Fred had always been the steady anchor in their family, but illness shifted the roles. Joanne became a caregiver, holding space for his pain, patience, and presence. It brought its own strain, but also a deeper intimacy. Even in his final days, Fred's sense of humor remained. His ability to find light in the darkest moments didn't disappear. Joanne remembers telling him, "We're going to be okay. The boys will be fine, and I'm going to try to be fine." And when he went, she felt that peace and even joy in his passing. Her reflections remind us that grief isn't neat or linear, and that even someone as remarkable as Fred Rogers faced the same human fragilities we all do. But Joanne didn't stop there. Instead of fading into the background after Fred's death, she became the guiding force preserving his message. She took the reins at Fred Rogers Productions, ensuring that the shows he started continued to reach new generations with the same warmth and emotional honesty. She shared stories about Fred on television, at events, and in documentaries, reminding the world why kindness matters. If you've seen A Beautiful Day in the Neighborhood, you may have noticed Joanne's small cameo, a quiet but powerful testament to the woman who knew Fred best. Her love for music was a vital part of this legacy. As a talented pianist, she brought her own creativity and warmth to the table, showing that art and kindness go hand in hand. People who knew her speak of her humor, grounded wisdom, and warmth qualities that complemented Fred perfectly and helped keep his spirit alive. Fred's devotion to kindness and love wasn't just poetic. It was practical, intentional, and sometimes numeric. He kept his weight at exactly 143 pounds for most of his adult life. That number wasn't a coincidence, it was symbolic. 1 letter in I, 4 in love, 3 in you. A small, private ritual that spoke volumes about how he lived his life. And it wasn't lost on others. In 2019, Pennsylvania designated May 23rd as 143 Day, the 143rd day of the year, encouraging people to act with kindness and thoughtfulness. A perfectly Fred way to honor him. Joanne passed away on January 14th, 2021, at 92, surrounded by family in the Pittsburgh home she shared with Fred. She leaves behind 2 sons, and a legacy as heartfelt, enduring, and quietly transformative as Fred's. Together, they didn't need grand gestures. Their love was calm, consistent, and transformative. Sometimes saying, "I love you," only takes 3 numbers. So, as we reflect on Fred Rogers' gentle smile and unshakable kindness, we're reminded that behind it was a man who carried immense responsibility, vulnerability, and humanity. And thanks to Joanne, we see not only the legend but the person, the man who lived kindness, deliberately and deeply, every day. Could it be that behind the quiet heroism of Fred Rogers, there was an awful truth that the world overlooked? The truth wasn't scandalous, it was real, human, and profoundly moving. And now we finally get to see it. Tell us what you think in the comments. Share this story. And for more videos that explore the lives behind the legends, tap on the next video on your screen.